Ever feel like you're stuck in someone else's shadow? Like you're at a party and everyone's focused on your more outgoing friend.
Oh, yeah, totally.
That's the vibe I got from Joanna at the start of Before the King,
Uh,
the book you wanted us a deep dive into today.
yeah. It's interesting how Kaufman uses that overshadowed feeling to set up how Joanna and Dahlia interact.
Right.
Joanna is beautiful, privileged,
Hmm.
but she feels trapped by all that.
Yeah.
And then you have Dahlia dealing with this mysterious illness, makes her different.
And they're living in first century Judea under Roman rule.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about pressure. Kaufman doesn't shy away from showing how Jewish tradition clashes with Roman power.
Not at all.
Remember those market scenes?
Exactly.
Even simple things are impacted by Roman soldiers and tax collectors.
Totally. That historical context really helps us get the characters.
It does.
We see Joanna struggling with this arranged marriage to a wealthy Roman,
Yeah.
while Dahlia finds comfort in her faith.
Right.
Their world is so different from ours.
So
But their struggles, they feel relatable.
they do, surprisingly so.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Joanna's inner struggle a bit.
Okay.
She's engaged to this guy she barely knows,
Right.
surrounded by wealth, privilege, yet she seems almost bored.
More than bored, I think.
Really?
Yeah, she's yearning for something more. She questions what's expected of her as a woman back then.
Right.
Her fascination with the Nabatean minister,
Yeah.
who's from a totally different culture or belief system.
Right.
It suggests she's looking for truth outside the norms she knows.
That scene where she visits the Nabatean marketplace
Yeah,
really shows her curiosity.
it does.
Like she's stepping into a whole new world.
It is.
One that challenges everything.
Totally. And what's fascinating is how Dahlia,
Yeah.
despite her illness, seems more sure of herself than Joanna.
Interesting.
Her weakness, in a way, becomes her strength
How so?
because she sees the world differently.
Okay.
She's not bound by the same expectations, so she sees things Joanna misses.
You're right.
Remember how she challenges Joanna's view on their arranged marriages?
Oh, that's a great point. Dahlia's faith seems to ground her in a way Joanna isn't.
Yeah.
And their sisterhood,
Yeah.
complicated as it is,
It is.
it's clearly a strength for both of them.
Absolutely. It's not always perfect,
No.
but there's this fierce love between them.
Yeah.
Makes you think about how we find strength in our own families.
Right.
Even when it's messy.
It is.
Yeah.
Totally. Now, things get really interesting when other characters come in.
Oh, yeah.
Mary Magdalene, Matthew the tax collector.
Right.
They pop into Joanna's life at these key moments.
They do.
And they're all linked to this new teacher, Jesus, who's causing a stir.
What I found interesting is how each of these characters is changing themselves.
Yeah.
And they each point Joanna in a new direction.
Interesting.
Like puzzle pieces, leading her towards this figure who challenges everything she thought she knew.
About faith and power.
Yeah, and like Matthew, for instance. Tax collector, seen as working with the Romans, kind of an outcast.
Right.
His change is big because it shows how Jesus' message can reach anyone.
Even those on the fringes.
Exactly.
Right. And those encounters with Jesus,
Yeah,
they're like turning points in Joanna's journey.
they are.
She starts as this sheltered woman, but we see her evolving, questioning,
Yeah,
and ultimately taking bold steps.
yeah.
Remember her helping Dalia?
Oh, yeah, that was huge.
She defies social norms.
It's like she's finally shedding those expectations and becoming herself.
And then confronting Herod to defend John the Baptist.
Wow.
Talk about finding your voice.
It is.
It's such a contrast to the Joanna we meet at the beginning.
It is.
She goes from quietly questioning her marriage to facing a king for what she believes in.
Powerful stuff.
It makes you wonder what events in our lives have pushed us to speak up,
Yeah, what's made us challenge things?
find our own voice.
That's such a great question.
And it's something Kaufman explores so well throughout the book.
She does.
Joanna's journey isn't just about finding love or happiness.
Right.
It's about finding her place.
In a world that's always trying to define her.
Exactly.
Breaking free.
And finding the strength to make a difference.
I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling of being defined by outside things.
I think so too.
You know, societal expectations, family,
Yeah.
even our own past.
Absolutely. And before the king shows us, we can break free from those things.
We
Redefine ourselves.
Yeah.
And step into a life that's more true and meaningful.
More authentic.
So we've talked about Joanna's struggles, the pressure of expectations,
Yeah.
and meeting these other characters who are also seeking truth.
Right.
It feels like we're just scratching the surface of this book.
Oh, for sure.
I can't wait to see what else we uncover as we dive deeper.
Me too. It's clear Joanna's journey is just beginning.
And the stakes are getting higher.
Oh, yeah, they are.
We'll be back in a moment to continue exploring this captivating story.
Can't wait.
Don't go anywhere.
We'll be right back. You know, one thing that really struck me about Before the King
Yeah.
is how Kaufman uses that Roman-occupied Judea setting
All right.
to explore forgiveness. Joanna's journey isn't just about finding her voice.
Right.
It's about learning to let go of anger and resentment.
Especially towards Susanna.
Exactly. Their relationship is so complex.
It is.
They start as rivals, almost enemies.
Yeah.
Susanna's always putting Joanna down.
I felt that tension at that wedding banquet.
Oh,
You
totally.
could cut it with a knife.
You can really feel that animosity.
Yeah.
But as the story goes on, you see Susanna's vulnerability.
Oh, interesting.
Like her cruelty is hiding some deep pain.
Right.
And when Joanna forgives Susanna, it's like a dam breaks.
Wow.
All those pent-up emotions come pouring out.
That reconciliation scene.
Oh, yeah.
So powerful, gave me chills.
It's not about condoning Susanna's past. It's about seeing her as human,
Yeah.
recognizing she needs healing,
Yeah.
and offering her the same compassion Joanna got from Jesus.
It's like that forgiveness overflows
It's
into
genius.
her relationships with others.
Yeah.
And it transforms even the most unlikely connections.
And what's fascinating is how Kaufman shows forgiveness as a process.
Not just a one-time thing.
Exactly. It takes time, humility,
Yeah.
a willingness to see past the hurt.
Right.
Joanna and Susanna may not become best friends,
True.
but they reach understanding, respect.
It makes you think about forgiveness in our own lives.
It does.
Are we holding on to anger?
Yeah. Are there relationships we need to mend?
Absolutely. And Before the King shows us forgiveness isn't weakness, it's strength.
Choosing compassion over bitterness,
Right.
reflecting God's love and mercy.
And speaking of transformation,
Yeah.
Eden's journey is so compelling.
It is.
She starts as Joanna's handmaid,
Right.
almost invisible.
In the background.
But as she sees Joanna change, she starts to embrace a different life too.
She does.
Becomes a confidant, a friend, a believer.
I love that scene where Eden finds Dalia's message to their aunt.
Me too. A turning point for her.
It is.
She sees Joanna's vulnerability, her love for Dalia.
Yeah,
It awakens something in Eden.
it does.
Makes her risk her safety to help reunite the sisters. It's a small act of defiance,
It is.
but it speaks volumes about her courage.
It's like she's shedding her old identity,
Right.
the one defined by her status.
And stepping into a bolder version of herself.
And she chooses a new name,
Yes.
symbolizing her fresh start,
See a beginning.
rooted in Jesus' love and grace.
It reminds us that transformation is possible for anyone.
It is, no matter their background.
I love that. Okay, let's talk about those encounters with Jesus.
Okay.
Kaufman builds up to them so well.
She does.
It's like this anticipation, longing,
It's palpable.
and when they finally happen,
Yeah.
it's electric.
She's masterful how she does that.
She's
creating this deep need for healing within Joanna,
right.
something only Jesus can fulfill.
And how he addresses Joanna's grief over Dalia.
Oh, it's so tender.
He doesn't offer easy answers.
Real platitudes.
He acknowledges her pain
Yeah.
and invites her to experience his healing.
The way she runs into his arms.
Oh, yeah.
Embraces him with all that love and gratitude.
It's so raw.
It's authentic.
And what's fascinating is that Jesus' healing goes beyond the physical.
It does.
He touches her emotions, her spirit.
Offers a peace that goes beyond her circumstances.
This encounter shows what it means to truly experience Jesus
It does.
and to be transformed by his love.
From the inside out.
And that transformation even affects Joanna's relationship with her husband, Chusa.
Oh, interesting.
It's like her healing unlocks something in him, too.
Awakens a deeper love.
A desire he's been holding back.
His response to her healing is so moving.
It is.
He's astonished, humbled,
Yeah.
overwhelmed by the miracle.
It shakes him out of his complacency.
Challenges his assumptions
Makes him face his own fears.
and desires.
I love that scene where he touches her leg,
Oh, yeah.
tracing her healed bone,
It's such a moment of intimacy,
recognizing God's power.
working in their lives.
Their dynamic changes completely.
It does.
They're not bound by politics anymore.
They're becoming true lovers
United by faith.
and a growing understanding of God's grace.
But their journey isn't easy.
Yeah.
The political intrigue,
Yeah.
the threat from Herod and Othniel,
Right.
the danger to Jesus and his followers.
It creates this tension.
That keeps you on the edge of your seat.
It highlights the cost of following Jesus,
The sacrifices they're willing to make.
even when their lives are at risk.
And speaking of courage, remember when Joanna confronts Herod to defend John the Baptist?
Oh, talk about boldness.
She could have stayed silent,
Easily.
but she risks everything to speak truth to power.
It shows how her faith has grown.
It's not just about personal piety anymore,
It's about standing up for what's right.
challenging injustice.
The way she handles that encounter, her wisdom, how she disarms Herod's anger.
It's incredible.
It speaks to the Holy Spirit working within her,
Empowering her to be bold.
to act courageously,
It's like she's embracing her calling.
using her gifts to make a difference.
And that's a powerful message for all of us.
It is.
We might not face kings or empires,
True.
but we're called to use our voices
Our talents, our resources.
to advance God's kingdom
To bring hope,
before the king shows us what that can look like.
even in messy times.
And speaking of messy,
Yeah.
that scene where Joanna finds out Dalia's alive.
Oh, wow.
After years of grief and guilt,
Not only is she alive,
but seeking healing from Jesus.
it changes everything.
It's a picture of redemption,
Second chances.
God's boundless grace.
And how Kaufman sets up that reunion in the garden.
It's so symbolic.
The Garden of Eden's
New beginnings.
restoration.
It's like Joanna's personal resurrection, mirroring Jesus' victory over death.
Beautifully put.
It reminds us that even in darkness, God is working,
He is
bringing beauty from ashes.
turning mourning into dancing.
It's interesting that while we focused on Joanna,
Yeah.
Chuse's transformation is just as big,
It's subtle.
but profound.
He starts as this pragmatic, ambitious guy,
Comfortable in the political world.
but seeing Jesus's impact on Joanna and others,
Yeah,
his view starts to shift.
I agree. He's drawn to Jesus' power at first.
Right.
But that scene where he describes seeing Jesus cleanse the temple, the authority, the compassion,
It's like a veil is lifted.
his response is genuine.
It is.
He's not just convinced intellectually.
Yeah.
He's moved emotionally. He struggles, though,
He does.
torn between Herod, his ambitions, and protecting Joanna.
Caught between two worlds.
The world of power,
And the world of faith and love.
it's something we can all relate to.
We do live in a world that values power and wealth.
It does.
But Jesus calls us to a different way.
Love, compassion, service.
It's hard to balance those.
Right.
But Chuse's journey shows us how
How to navigate those tensions.
to wrestle with doubts and choose faith.
And ultimately, he chooses love.
He does.
That scene where he confesses his love to Joanna,
Oh, so beautiful.
full of tenderness,
Vulnerability.
after holding back for so long,
He lets go.
allows himself to be fully known,
And love.
and Joanna's response.
Just as powerful.
She meets his love with her own.
Embraces him with joy.
What a testament to love, forgiveness, and faith.
It is.
It reminds us that even in chaos,
Even uncertainty,
love can bloom,
relationships can heal.
and new beginnings are possible.
Speaking of new beginnings.
We have to talk about that ending.
Oh, yeah.
Joanna's encounter with the resurrected Jesus.
The way she runs into his arms.
The joy, the gratitude.
It stays with you.
It does.
It's the affirmation of everything she's believed in,
Everything she's fought for.
sacrificed for.
A reminder that even in the face of death, God is still working,
He is
bringing life from death,
turning mourning into dancing.
offering us hope.
The unshakable hope of his resurrection power.
It's not just personal for Joanna.
It's not.
It speaks to the hope for all humanity.
The promise of new life for anyone who believes.
And how Kaufman connects this to the bigger picture.
Yeah.
The political turmoil, the unrest, the threat from Rome.
It shows that Jesus' message isn't just about personal salvation.
Right.
It's about changing the world.
Bringing justice and peace.
Before the King is a powerful story.
It is about faith, love, forgiveness.
And God's transformative grace.
It makes us look at our own lives,
Our priorities, our commitment to Jesus.
no matter the cost.
It speaks to those deep longings we all have.
The longing for love, belonging, purpose.
For the hope that's bigger than this broken world.
And it reminds us that in Jesus, those longings are fulfilled.
They are.
A new life filled with joy,
Yeah.
peace, and hope.
Available to all who believe.
Before we move on,
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on something specific.
Okay.
Kaufman uses several parables Jesus taught,
Right.
including the parable of the soils.
Oh, yeah.
How do you think that parable connects to the characters in before the king?
That's a great question.
It's all about how people react to God's kingdom, right?
It is.
Some hearts are hard.
Some are shallow,
Some are choked by worry.
and some are receptive, fertile ground.
We see all of those responses in the characters, right?
Absolutely. Like Joanna and Chusa.
Yeah.
They resist Jesus' message at first.
Their hearts are hardened by ambition and expectations.
But as they encounter Jesus,
See his power, experience his love,
their hearts soften.
become more receptive.
Then you have characters like Susanna and Eden,
Yeah.
initially shallow,
Swayed by power or status.
but they see Joanna's change.
Experience forgiveness and grace.
Their roots grow deeper.
Their faith becomes more grounded.
And of course, Dalia and Mary Magdalene,
Right.
their hearts are fertile ground from the start.
Open to Jesus.
Their faith flourishes.
Inspiring others.
The parable reminds us that faith can take root anywhere. It can,
Transforming life.
bringing a harvest of love and purpose.
It makes us examine our own hearts.
It does.
Are we open to God's kingdom?
Are we letting faith flourish in our lives?
It's a question worth thinking about.
It is.
Now, before we wrap up,
Yeah.
one more theme that stood out to me.
Okay.
Crossing lines.
Mm.
Early on, Joanna sees how society divides people.
Based on status, beliefs, even gender.
But as she follows Jesus,
Yes.
she challenges those divisions.
She embraces inclusion and unity.
It really resonated with me.
It highlights how revolutionary Jesus' teachings were.
They were.
He constantly challenged norms,
Reached out to the marginalized,
welcomed the outcast,
broke down barriers,
and Joanna's willingness to follow him
to step outside her comfort zone.
and embrace those seen as unclean or unworthy.
It's inspiring.
It's not always easy, though.
No.
There's tension with some disciples.
Who struggle to accept her.
Remember after John the Baptist's death,
Yeah.
Simon and Judas question Joanna.
Because of her ties to Herod.
They think she's a threat.
Even those close to Jesus can struggle with prejudice.
They can.
It reminds us that we all have biases.
We do.
But it's in those conflicts that we see Jesus' kingdom.
He doesn't reject those who are different.
He welcomes them.
Invites them to share in his mission.
And it's beautifully shown when Peter defends Joanna and Susanna.
He does.
He says it's not their place to hinder anyone.
From coming to Jesus.
It's a powerful affirmation.
The church should be a place of welcome.
Acceptance, inclusion.
It challenges us to look at our own communities.
Are we embracing those different from us?
Are we building bridges?
Of understanding, compassion, and love.
It's a call to action.
We'll be right back to continue our deep dive into Before the King.
We will.
We'll discuss those heart-wrenching scenes leading up to Jesus' crucifixion.
And the miracle of his resurrection.
Stay tuned.
Ah.
Before the King really doesn't hold back, taking us right through to the crucifixion.
Yeah.
Kaufman makes even those well-known scenes feel new and gripping.
Yep.
We experience that whole weekend through Joanna's eyes.
Right.
It's a raw look at the emotions and faith of those closest to Jesus.
It is. She captures the horror and the hope so vividly.
Remember that scene where Joanna sees Jesus being led to trial?
Oh, yeah.
How Kaufman describes his battered body?
It's gut-wrenching.
It stays with you.
It does.
I felt like I was right there with Joanna,
Oh,
feeling her helplessness, wanting to do something.
and all the political stuff happening around them makes it more intense.
Does.
Herod's court, the Romans, the religious leaders.
They're all in this power struggle.
And Jesus is caught in the middle.
And Joanna's connection to Chusa puts her in a unique spot,
She's right there inside Herod's palace.
surrounded by the people condemning Jesus,
You can feel her inner struggle.
wanting to protect him but knowing she can't.
It makes you think.
It does.
What does it mean to have faith when things seem impossible?
Right. Is it about taking action?
Or sometimes just being there, standing with those who are suffering?
That's a powerful question.
It's what Joanna wrestles with.
She can't physically stop what's happening.
But she refuses to leave him.
She sends messages to his followers,
Desperate for news.
trying to make sense of it all.
While also dealing with her own turmoil.
And in all that darkness,
Yeah.
there are these little acts of kindness.
Like Susanna telling Joanna about John the Baptist's burial.
It's small, but it says so much.
About compassion, friendship.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest times, we can choose love.
We say
These small acts of defiance, of honoring the condemned.
they keep hope alive.
And then that scene at the tomb,
Yeah.
Joanna, Mary Magdalene, Salome,
They go to anoint Jesus' body.
expecting grief and despair.
But what they find changes everything.
The empty tomb.
The angel's words. He is not here. He is risen.
It's a moment that's hard to grasp.
It is.
It changes everything they thought they knew.
It's like the world is flipped upside down.
And for Joanna, meeting the risen Jesus in the garden,
It's breathtaking.
the way Kaufman describes it,
The joy, the awe,
it's like you're right there.
and Jesus calling her by name.
Joanna.
It's so personal.
It shows that the resurrection isn't just an idea.
It's a real experience.
It changes lives. I get chills just thinking about it.
Me too.
Joanna running to Jesus, embracing him.
Her tears changing from grief to joy.
It's pure love and gratitude.
It gets to the heart of the Christian faith.
Death is defeated. Love wins.
A new life filled with hope and the promise of eternity.
For all who believe.
And talking about new life.
That last scene with Joanna being pregnant,
Oh, yeah?
it's perfect.
It's like a physical sign of the new life she's found.
God's faithfulness.
A future full of possibilities.
It's such a hopeful image.
It speaks to resurrection.
God bringing life from death, hope from despair.
A future from the ashes of the past.
Kaufman leaves us feeling like Joanna's story is just starting.
It's like a reminder that faith is a journey.
There's always more to discover.
More challenges, more ways to experience God's love.
This deep dive into Before the King has been incredible. It's a story that sticks with you.
It makes you think about your own faith, your relationships, your life.
We're so glad you joined us for this deep dive.
We hope you found it insightful.
And as always, we want to hear your thoughts.
What resonated with you? Which character did you connect with?
Share your insights in the comments.
And if you enjoyed this,
Subscribe for more discussions.
like this video, share it with your friends.
You never know who might be touched by Joanna's story.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep learning.
And keep diving deep.